What is up? What is up, y'all? We are here in season 8, the last episode for this season, the last episode for this year. We are missing our girl Shay, but we are still here to bring you some good content today. Welcome to Seven Generations Black, the podcast powered to equip and inform you, clear your lens, and present a new perspective with Theo E.J. Wilson, H. Soul, LETHOL, and I'm your girl, Jice Johnson. We are normally hosted by Shay J, and we are Seven Generations Black. Listen, as the COVID-19 pandemic still threatens our ability to get our lives back to normal, we are seeing historic violence. Or are we? 2020 was the worst year seen in decades, and 2021 has surpassed even that. What has happened to the Black psyche that perpetuates the trauma we've come to know as Black on Black crime? Is there a pathway out of this harmful and internalized narrative? So before we get started into our topic today, let me make sure that I read you our red pill alert. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. This is your opportunity to stop listening and tune out now. So if you do, the story ends and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. However, if you take this 7th-generation red pill, you stay here with us in this liberatory discussion, and we show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. The choice is yours. Welcome to 7 Generations Black. All right. Listen, I'm so excited to bring this to a close here for this year. You know, we got this started in the middle of COVID because we understood that there were some things that our community needed to know about, and there were some conversations that we wanted to have. And I think we've been having some amazing conversations. And so as we think about how we're getting ready to not only close out the 2021 season, the year, right? But also how we're getting ready to close out this conversation around propaganda. And please believe this is not the last conversation we will have about propaganda, because it is prevalent in every aspect of our lives, right? But I think what's important is that we understood after so many episodes that it was time to dig in a little deeper in the ways that propaganda continues to show up in our lives and in the narratives that we hold near and dear, for better or for worse, to our hearts. So I want to talk.
Oh God!
So there's also a little one here. H. So I want to toss it off to you first, because I think what we're seeing, or what is being reported, is that we're seeing an uptick in crime and violence within our community. Right? And so we saw an uptick in 2020, and then now we're seeing another uptick. Like, talk to us about that. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, let's be clear. We're having this conversation in Denver, Colorado, after just watching 6 teenagers get shot yesterday at 1 o'clock at Aurora Central High School. 6, by the way, teenagers shot after walking home from lunch. When we start talking about and framing the topic of this conversation, it happened because about a month ago, I was sitting on a panel at DU. I was facilitating the panel, and DU had flown out the executive team out of New York of a group called Youth Against Gun Violence. They're the largest organization of that sort in New York. And I was expecting, of course, to learn a lot. What I wasn't expecting them to say, and I felt some type of way about not having this information. What I wasn't expecting them to say, that the homicide rates and the suicide rates in the Black community are the highest that have ever been recorded. And that was highly problematic for me. Not that I didn't know, but that I didn't know it was that much of a crisis. And so this is a youth organization that creates programs and things of that nature in order to combat this. There's an interesting weaving of that tale, is that part of what they talk about, and this is the propaganda part, is that the Democratic Party is working in conjunction with mainstream media to keep that under wraps because, of course, the Democratic Party is the party for Black folks. So if any reason that it would be happening under their watch, then there's a certain amount of accountability. Well, here's what has happened. The Democratic Party has instituted austerity measures in the same vein that the Republican Party would, but of course they never liked to call it austerity measures. What they called it was COVID measures. So they used COVID measures to cut after school programs. They used COVID excuses to cut funding to youth organizations and youth programming, gang programming, because of course nobody was supposed to be outside and moving and navigating outdoor space. The problem is that funding hasn't come back since it's been opened back up, which has been quite for some time now, that people are moving in public and teenagers are seeing each other now and they're going to school with each other now, and that hasn't returned, and there was never a plan in place to have it return, right? And so now now that the net has been pulled from underneath Black people, we are now engaged in genocidal behavior with each other based upon the trauma of what has happened in COVID and the lack of resources that exist for us. And so now the question becomes, we just saw Dave Chappelle engage in 4 specials where he's beefing with white, rich LGBTQ folks. Now, I don't mind him going after dedicating 1 special, but to dedicate 4 specials in the middle of when your people who you say you're defending and speaking on behalf of, stop punching down on my people, are in the middle of the worst genocidal year, 2 years since it's ever been recorded. So where is the voice, where is the sound of alarm that exists inside of our community around what is taking place around this homicidal, suicidal equals genocidal issue? Who's talking about this? Who's using their platform to speak on these issues? I haven't seen it out of the Black community.
Let me say this, bro, because you're on point with so many things. Last year when I was working at the food bank over there off of Peoria, Coach I, who be holding the what is the name of his group, Struggle of Love Foundation, right? Coach I is a direct violence interruption dude. He's a direct violence interruption guy. He's the dude who actually they call and be like, these niggas about to start shooting. He'd be like, I'm on my way. He said last year it's going to be a hot summer, y'all. It's going to be a hot summer because the economy shut down, which means there's no jobs for these homies to make an excuse to their other homies to leave them and go actually be productive this summer. He's seen it. He said this was March. Feel me?
He knew
this
it was coming.
March of 2020.
Yeah.
Coach I told me this, right? So I get on my platform and I start arguing like, yo, you have to resist the economy getting shut down. All these liberal motherfuckers get on me like, yo, why are you being a Trumpy right now? I'm like, fuck Donald Trump, in the words of Nipsey Hussle. You know what I'm saying? Fuck Donald Trump. Biden really wasn't even really a factor at that point, at least, or if he was, I don't remember him being there. I wasn't even thinking about him. What I was thinking about was immediately the kids in the hood who, if we shut the economy down, there's a lot of things that happen when you do that maneuver. Not only do you lose economic flow and the excuse for these boys to get off the block, but what you do is you lock these kids inside with the abusers who they was trying to get away from in the first place. T-Rob will tell you this. T-Rob started blooding because he said it's right in Shop Talk. So this is not private knowledge, because his home was abusive. So you lock these kids at home with a lot of times abusive situations. Then on top of that, you don't have outlets. There's no place to have fun. There's no place to go dangle your feet off a bar stool and have a drink. There's no place to go to the hookah bar. Some place to go, right? There's no Boys and Girls Club. There's no motherfucking Elages or some shit.
That's right.
Right? There's no place for you to go after school and learn how to build rockets and shit, right? All of these things, when you shut the world down, you shut down outlets. So this for me is an I told you so moment to all them people who jumped on my head about this when it was happening.
Yeah.
I told you these kids was gonna thump.
Yeah.
I told you these boys was gonna shoot, and they shoot now.
Yeah.
Right? And what's so hard about human interactions is once we lose the skills to be with each other, it's hard to gain them back. Once those austerity measures, I'm very glad you referred to them that way, because that's actually what they are. And I've never heard them actually have them pronounced that way. But these are in fact austerity measures. Every time you leave freedom behind, or they take an inch of freedom, they build a wall there. They lay bricks there. You can't just take back freedom that you give away to powers that be, bro.
That's fact.
They fucking set up camp at every inch. Don't believe me? Ask the Indians. They set up camp at every inch that you leave to them. So of course, bro, airplanes, people acting crazy, slapping each other on Southwest and Spirit Airlines, and you see what I'm saying? We lost something when we forgot how to weave together, and so now this is reactive activity. We trying to pick up the pieces when the shit already fell. And I'm just like, this is a reminder that I need to re-engage in the hood more. But when I was engaged in the hood hella, people stopped me from speaking the very shit that you just told me came to pass.
And it was Democrats and liberals who...
It was Democrats and liberals.
That's right.
Period.
That's right. And you make a very salient point. And I've seen this ad before, this meme that shows a Southwest airplane line, and people are 6 feet apart. And then they show them on the plane where they're 6 inches apart. So it's all like, if we got to stand 6 feet apart when we're waiting to get on the plane, what makes it okay that we're now? And it's all because Southwest still wanted their money.
Right.
Just like the hood still needed their money. But
right.
you just stopped the hood from getting theirs, right? But you didn't stop these airlines from doing it based upon COVID. So it's a spurious argument at best to roll out austerity measures against Black folks.
Lockdowns led to lockup. Period.
I got to, because one of the viewers, said, yes, when you're bored, you have no choice but to shoot people. And I know that's being facetious, but I think it's interesting, right? Because I think they're
not from the hood. They see that motherfucker not from the hood. They don't understand what the fuck is going on, bro. Because if you from the hood, you understand that fucking idle hands make the devil's work. They just not from the trap. Period.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I think that there's a reasonable argument to be had, even using the T-Rob excuse. The point that if you got to get out of your home in order to escape trauma, and home is where all the nurturing and love and all the basic skill, then that's a problem already.
Right.
That's a problem already. Like, the fact that you're running away from home is a problem. And that's really what I think the issue, the conversation that we need to start having, instead of pointing the finger outwards. What kind of fucking homes do we have? What are we doing inside of the house? Why do children have to get away from your ass 8 hours a day in order for them not to start murderizing and suiciding themselves? Is a conversation that I think bears us being had. And I think it really boils down to, Theo, your question. What is it that we can't even, when did that happen where we can't even get along with each other? Like, where are conflict management skills? Where I
was getting ready to go with that too is first of all, I'm always one to acknowledge that the Black on Black crime narrative is a false narrative, right? And so yes, we inflict crime on each other, but so do I. So even in that context, right? Because again, we're addressing propaganda. There's a narrative that goes out, and that narrative is that we're more violent towards each other than other communities are violent towards, themselves, right? And we're more violent towards each other. Before we start addressing violent white racists, we have to address our own violence towards each other. There's this kind of space, right, that this narrative lives in, which is that we are more of our own problem than anyone on the outside. But kind of to what you're saying, when you're saying that person's not from the hood, that already is an issue, right? In the hood, with lack of access to resources, with it creates trauma, it creates violence, it creates the
Does it though? Does lack of resource? We didn't have no resources on the plantation.
Yeah, but we okay. Okay.
But so you're getting to. Go ahead.
Do lack of resources automatically mean that when we ain't got shit, then we are going to be on a murderous spree with each other? Does that equate to each other? Because that was never true before 1950.
No, well, so kind of the next piece, right? Because I think that there's layering to this, right? Like, to your point. No, because we can go and look at a bunch of tribes and villages that ain't got nothing, and violence is not their issue, right? Like, that's not their top issue. You just look like, are you looking at
no,
what
I agree.
Weird? No, Theo did. Did you?
No,
no. I was thinking very loudly, apparently. So here's what it is, right? And I said this when I was a kid. If you drop crack and guns off in front of a Buddhist monastery, it'll stay there. It'll just stay there, right? What happens is there was a situation of cause and effect that got us the way we are. And what I want to really point out is that the hood has done efforts, a lot of efforts, to address crime within the community. This is what I used to say to Republicans. I used to get on liberals. We just got on liberals. Let me get on some of these Republicans real quick, right? When we were saying Black Lives Matter, they
hold up.
What about? Hold up,
bro. Not you, Theo. Hey, yo, Tyrone Jackson, bro. Don't ever talk about nobody on this fucking podcast, man, supporting no motherfucking genocide, no black babies, bro.
I don't think he's talking about us. I think he's talking about. I think he's talking about the people who push that narrative.
Yeah, all right. I'm just making sure. I'm just throwing it out there to make sure.
No, you might be right. I'm looking at the that he has. Yeah.
Go ahead, Theo. I want to put that out there, bro.
Yeah. So what it is they was like, well, how come black people don't get angry unless a cop kills a black person? I'm like, that means you're not from the hood. We had Heal the Hood marches since, I don't know, bro, I remember being a kid in the 90s here.
Yeah.
They would stop the violence rallies out the wazoo. T-Rob did his freaking prodigal son. We had the Million Man March. Farrakhan sat up there and for hours spoke about atonement with ourselves, among another, in black men.
And don't forget the Million Woman March in Philly and the Million Family March.
The black people in this country have been trying like a motherfucker. In fact, the FBI will tell you that our efforts are actually effective. They will tell you that there was a direct correlation with after-school activities and what we call freedom schools and the things like that, and to the crime rate going down when these programs go up. Violence Interrupters in Chicago, the Nation of Islam, they ran this thing together. They was like, look, we got brothers in the hood who got stripes, who if they say don't shoot, these niggas actually might listen, right? The Violence Interrupters had a whole documentary.
Yeah.
This is Chicago. At the same time, Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, is patrolling the freaking projects.
Yeah.
Both these got defunded.
Yeah.
Both these got kicked out the hood.
That's right.
So
by Democratic.
Right.
By the Democratic.
Right. Rahm Emanuel was a beast, but also Republicans jump on us about not caring. I'm like, bro, we've been caring. What you talking about? It was y'all Republican presidents, Nixon, Bush, and Reagan that brought the crack in. So don't give me that shit.
Listen, we can't just hold on. Let's slow up, y'all. Slow up, please. We can't just sit here and I get it. You understand what I'm saying? Our community of people have chosen to align themselves with one particular political party, and I get that. But all political parties have done shit as dirt to our community in the name of capitalism, in the name of political expediency, et cetera, right? So if we're talking about the angle of propaganda, right? We know that narratives such as black on black crime and things of that nature, especially in this particular era, after we see this big push to defund the police, which Democrats was like, no, we're not going to do that. The current White House policy is to provide the police with an additional, 300 million, right? Because all they need is some additional training. You understand what I'm saying? And the training that they'll receive is gonna stop, right? Whatever it is they've been doing to us. And I say all of that simply to say that if we're talking about it from a propaganda perspective, there's enough to go around, right? But the reason why you will not see these villages around, the world, or if you dropped off some guns and some crack, whatever the case may be, in front of the Buddha temple or village, whatever the case may be, is because they don't have the constant drumming of propaganda in them 24/7.
And
right?
historical trauma, yeah.
They don't have that, right?
And when they did have it, we had a Rwanda. So your point is very well taken. Your point is very well taken. When that propaganda machine, when they got on the radio and they had those people, the Tutsis, talking about the Hutus, and they just had that. And listen, again, to your point, they just had that shit for a year or two. We ain't talking about even having it for 400, right? It created a huge genocide. So that's a very, very, very good point. I just want to mention that we are getting a lot of love in the chat room, by the way. So I hope y'all are paying attention that Gloria and the dude that
Tyrone.
Yeah, Tyrone, and now Paula Kaminsky.
Our moderators are taking care of it.
You know what it is? We're good at what we're doing. We're reaching out to our people. But they don't like it. They're afraid. So I don't even want to talk about them no more, right?
Taking care of it.
Here's the thing I want to say. Hold on, Jice.
Huh?
Here's the thing I want to speak to real quick.
Wait, hold on 1 second.
Go ahead.
Make sure that y'all hit like. Make sure that y'all hit share. Go ahead and super chat us up. Go ahead, Lethal.
What I wanted to speak to and talk about was in our very first episode that we ever did in season 1, right? We talk about the need and the necessity for qualifying our networks. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I am not saying that any organization that is against gun violence and bringing about the end of this type of pandemic in our community, the gun violence, right? Isn't an organization that we should trust or listen to. But what I am going to say is I would like for them and us to do our homework and to check where their information is coming from, right? And so before we started this episode here, I went to the Uniform Crime Reporting database of the FBI. And there's something there known as the Crime Data Explorer, right? And if we go there, you can break down homicide victims, right? Specifically by the type of weapons used to take their life, to kill them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just providing that because we said in the beginning, our first episode, that we need to qualify our networks, right? Yeah. And so I want our people to be able to know where they can go themselves and get the data, analyze it for themselves, right? I'm not saying don't trust us. I'm saying trust but verify.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is interesting.
I want to pull out a point out of what that looks like too, because speaking about propaganda and talking about the resources and like what sources that we trust, right? It's very interesting because the government actually puts out a lot of factual data and then they skew it in how they use it and what they actually implement based on the data, right? And so like to your point, I mean, and so then what we get is we get media, both left and right, because again, to your point, it's not just the Republican Party that does this, right? Like Democratic and liberal media put out a lot of bullshit so that they can spin information in the way in the way that they want you to go, right? And so again, like we're talking about propaganda because the narratives that you have are not coming from fact. Even if they get some fact, they're going to skew that fact. And so we're talking about where are you getting your information. It's important that we are reading or listening to both right and left, and then going back to the actual data and being able to think critically in order to come up with what's actually going on, because there are patterns that we can see that derive as to how they want to move people. So for example, when we're talking about fear is a propaganda tool. So what you're saying is that you have had a narrative around Black people being the most violent people to have ever walked the face of planet Earth, right? Despite that white people were in fact the most violent people to walk the face of Earth, but that's neither here nor there. You have created a narrative that says Black people are violent. And not only should you be afraid of them, but they should be afraid of themselves. So everybody should just be walking around scared of big Black motherfuckers coming up to you. And I think it's important because how are they using that information to further their agenda, whether it's the right-wing agenda or for, more policing and this, that, and the other, whether it's the left-wing agenda, to do whatever that it is that their agenda is. I mean, they are using that data and that information, and that's how they put it out there. And when we're qualifying our network, there are actual sources that we can use, because if you start to go back, there's another report that's out that I'm gonna have to look it up. There's another report that comes out and it lays out the real data and information, and the government will bury that shit. They'd be like, well, that's not the outcome that we wanted. We don't want to have that. But like the reports are available and they're factual.
Yeah. And let me just say this. A lot of that reporting, which is very interesting, is due to arresting and not necessarily convictions. And that's very important because we know that in the hood, sometimes for one murder, 7 brothers will get swept up just for the lineup, right? All 7 of those brothers count as murder arrests. None of them 7 brothers might be the murderer. But the fact is, they don't police like that in the white neighborhoods.
Great
Thank
point.
you, bro. Thank you, bro.
So I tell this to a white supremacist a while back. Well, Black people's neighborhoods, you get arrested. No, those are just arrest records. When you see the sentencing, now you see the racial disparities and institutional discrimination. And I think also the thing needs to be put in context is that the pandemic fucked everybody up, white people especially. I'm just watching this Dope Sick shit, right? If y'all ain't been watching Dope Sick on Hulu, you need to watch Dope Sick on Hulu.
I Googled that after I saw you posted.
Man, listen. These look, just what was it? Fentanyl last year? Just fentanyl. Killed 94,000 last year alone. Normally the death rate for opioids is about 70,000, right?
Yeah, but white folks are sounding the alarm about that, as to the point that you're talking about a movie that is addressing it. But where is that in the Black community?
Right. But what I'm saying is the breakdown of connection society.
Yeah, I get you.
Fucked everybody off.
Yeah.
To the point where I got my car stolen at the end of 2020, right? When I went to the car lot because they found my shit, they was like, we've never seen car theft this high. And everybody's doing it. A lot of white meth heads is doing it, taking out engine parts, getting, shit for opioids, using pipes to break shit open. You literally the rise of sorrow, sadness, and disconnection in general. Yeah. In general. Hurt all of us. And my final point is this. What I don't want to happen is for when we do focus in ourselves, trying to heal ourselves, that we lose context with the fact that the pandemic knocked everybody on their ass, suicide rates higher for all folks than we've ever seen, not just Black folks.
Yeah, but here's the thing about that, and I love what you're saying, because you don't want us to pathologize what is happening just to make it seem like it's us.
But also, we got to take accountability, so there's that balance here.
I feel you there. Kalila asked a question. She said to Lethal, so what or where is the divide or loophole where the youth are not being reached in an effective way? Lack of resources or upbringing, or where do you think this begins?
Wait, before you answer that, first, shout out to Ramort. Thank you for hitting us up and supporting independent Black media. But I want to say something to what Theo just said, which is another key thing that I think we forget. they don't go looking in their neighborhoods for crime. And part of the thing that we should keep in mind, part of the thing that we should keep in mind is that they know the same things we know. If you look at Kyle Rittenhouse, that is a prime example of somebody going to look for trouble in a place where he didn't think he'd get caught causing trouble, right? I mean, like, what happens if I want to go do some target practice, right? Why wouldn't I be in my rich white neighborhood and go down to the community park down where the black folks is at and have some target practice, and then I could take a run back to my white neighborhood, because they're never coming here to look for me. They're never coming here to look for me. They're going to circle around inside of the black neighborhoods looking for the perpetrator of who did this. They're never going to come look for me up in wherever I am. That is, had Kyle Rittenhouse not been caught, that is like the epitome of what he would have done. He then came from out of state, shot. He won some target practice, and he was getting ready to go back home thinking he wasn't going to experience any consequences. And it looks like he may not experience no consequences. I don't know. I don't think the verdict came out yet. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, we know there's no charges. But you get what I'm saying? Like, that's a key thing, because they know where they can go. And then again, there's propaganda to support it, right? Because why were you doing that? Well, I mean, they're violent, aren't they? I mean, why wouldn't I go out there to go ahead? My bad. Answer her question.
No.
That shit burned me.
So here's the thing, right? I think I talked about this before, and if I need to mention it again, not a problem. It's a lot of factors, right, that go into whatever the issues are that we are suffering from, right, as people talking about here in our psyche, right? But there's a new science out. It's called epigenetics, and I want our people to take some time to look this up and begin to learn about it, and begin to learn about how, and I'll use myself as an example, right? How I can go through a traumatic experience myself personally, right? And it'll cause an immediate change or effect, right? And then I procreate with a woman, right? And that alteration to my genes will manifest in that child, right? And that's the immediacy of it, right? What they found for some study purposes was when they were examining soldiers and service members who were exposed to trauma in Vietnam, for example, right? Their offsprings developed all types of health issues, right? And psychological health issues, okay? And that was within one generation, okay? Now, take that and multiply that trauma like that by multiple generations, 30, 40 generations. You understand what I'm saying? And it's continuous, and it's continuous, and it's continuous. The mother, the daughter, the granddaughter, the great-granddaughter, the great-great-granddaughter, the great-great-great-granddaughter, and so forth and so on, right? And it just keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, right? There are things occurring in our perfect example. Again, I'm gonna use myself as an example, right? My mother, experienced some trauma as a child. You understand what I'm saying? And the trauma she experienced manifested itself in me, right? But there is this other side, right, whereby if we experience enough love or nurturing type of treatment, we can offset in the immediacy, right? But without that loving intervention, right, then that alteration in our genes begins to take hold, and it's just, the science is just freaking phenomenal, right? Hold on. So I want our people to really begin to study that, right? And to learn about that, and learn and understand, because I think what's missing from some of our people and some of our communities is love and compassion for each other. As I said before, prior to, and I'm gonna give the brother some nod, I'm gonna give the brother some props, right? Prior to linking up with the brother Gamu and getting involved with Theo and him and these other brothers and whatnot in Shop Talk Live, right? I would see black man and think, I'm gonna have to kill this dude. Just from looking at you. Yeah. Did nothing to me. You understand what I'm saying? But
so how do you increase that then? That's the question that I wanted to ask you in order to clarify for Khalila's question is, how do we increase that love? How do we do that? That's what she's asking. Why are we not reaching the youth in an effective way in order to counterbalance the epigenetics that you're asking?
Well, since we're talking about propaganda, since we're talking about the effects of propaganda, there's the answer right there, right? It goes back to like, okay, you walk outside your house, you see a group of young boys and whatnot, right? You walk past them, you're on guard. You know what I'm saying? When I see young brothers now, I walk past them, I say, yo, what's up, young gods? What up, young kings? You see what I'm saying? And I've never been challenged, and I've never been looked like I'm crazy. They go, oh, what's up, OG? You understand what I'm saying? It's about how we interact with each other, man.
And I think this is where honestly, this is where there has to be a holistic healing within inside of our communities. Yeah. Because what is really happening is by the time you get kids, right? Like you're traumatized. You're not thinking about how to reverse that trauma unless you're thinking about how to reverse that trauma. Wow. I mean, it's a space of awareness and consciousness that's at a different level. It's not just seeing that there's a problem. It's there. You have to feel empowered, like you can do something about the problem, even if that's within your own, small hemisphere, right? I have to know that I can take that little boy running around in the background and love on him and kiss him enough to love away the trauma that I experienced, that my parents didn't know how to love away on me, right?
Yeah, I think
that's a different level of consciousness.
So that's two suggestions. That's one which I love from Lethal, which is speak to each other in the highest terms. Yes, love and compassion. Yes. And then the second one, which is what Jice is bringing in, is love on your kid, like love in your household, the touching, the holding, the hugging, the human connection. I love both of those. What would your addition to that look like?
Because there's more pieces to that when we talk about what the trauma looks like. I want to talk about two things, right? One is how many people are afraid to have physical touch within their own house, right? From traumas and other things like that. Not only do we know that that abuse is experienced in the household, but also it's interesting how it plays out. Because when I do things like I hug and kiss on my kids, I have had people be like, well, don't you think you're doing a lot? Like, actually, no, I don't think I'm doing a lot.
Probably not doing enough.
That part, right? But there's another thing. There was a young lady in Detroit. I actually don't know her at all, right? And so like I was just following her, liked her, thought she was doing some dope stuff. I commented on a post one day and I was like, hey sis, blah, 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 blah. And her response was, I'm not your sis. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, that's a term of endearment. I was like, it's just, from one black sister to another black sister. She was like, actually, sisters come from the same mother or the same father. I was baffled. I said, well, sis, or I said, well, Miss Brown, I don't know anyone who's ever had a problem with me saying sis in a very, cool. Like I wasn't saying sis, like I was like, all right, sis, whatever you say, none of that, right? And so it's just interesting because I'm looking at this young lady who is doing some dope things, but she's so fucking traumatized that me calling her sis was a whole argument that had nothing at all to do with the accolades I was giving her. I mean, it was just mind-boggling, but it just says that there is so much that's going on here, which was an earlier point that I wanted to make about the violence. It's not just the boredom that creates the violence. When we say we don't talk about mental issues, there's a space that we don't talk about mental health, depression, but there's mental issues that live and exist inside of trauma that make someone vehemently react to empowerment or vehemently react to encouragement, vehemently react to a compliment, right? Not even like a compliment from a guy to a girl, like you cat call it sex. I mean, hey sis, you look nice today. I don't think I look nice. I'm this, I'm that. I mean, there's something that's happening up here, right? And when we talk about mental issues, we're talking about certain types of diagnosable inside of a book issue. And I'm saying we are mentally injured up here that we really struggle with this. So I'm sorry that was long. Go ahead, Theo.
Yeah, no, what I wanted to say is we got to disabuse ourselves of the myth of nigger. Nigger is a hallucination. Nigger is a projection. Most niggas see niggas. See that? I even said it right there. The fact that I was raised to unconsciously, even now, my internal voice be hood as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like I got whole speeches out here, but my internal voice hood is right. So I had to make myself conscious and aware that when I see black people, I have to be willful to see people and not niggas. It's no, follow me here. Follow me here. Because nigga is a hallucination from a racist white imagination. That word wasn't operable in any of the places we were kidnapped from. So the fact that I have to consciously think about when I see black folks to be like, man, this nigga, oh shit, this brother, this person, this human being, right? When I read the book that Lethal's referring to, what Lethal's referring to is a book called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton that details epigenetics and the transgenerational trauma studied in animals and then eventually in people. Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief, right? He's got a whole special on Gaia. But what we're talking about is having to willfully see black people as part of the quantum field of intelligence that entangles all life. Do you see black people like that? Do you see black people as a part of the freaking rivers and streams? You feel me? Like part of the universe, like composed and woven of stardust. That dude on the corner playing his music loud, right? How he wouldn't even be able to be on his Bluetooth, but not for the space program and the sisters that launched the satellites. You feel me? Like this is what we have to start doing. This is a conscious exercise. There was these kids yesterday at the Safeway. These was the most hoodest kids I've seen in a while. Okay, these was the most hoodest kids. Nigga, don't do that, nigga. So I could see them drawing the attention, and so I was like, "Yo, can I use my discount card with y'all?" There's like, "Oh yeah, you want to use?" Yeah, there's like, "Girl, don't stop him from using his discount card." You know what I'm saying? So I was like, you know what I'm saying, and I started kind of talking to them, engaging with them. Like that. I just wanted to show that they have value to all the people who was watching them. You feel me? Because at any time they can call the police on these kids, right?
And here's something else, right? When we talk about the so-called N-word, right?
Yeah, right.
If you can control the language of a people, then you can control the way they think. And if you control the way they think, you control the way they feel. And if you control the way they feel, you control the way they behave, right? There is a study out there that says, right, the original NGR, right, meant God.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Right. And there's also research out there, studying the hieroglyphics of from Egypt, whatever, right? That says that interpretation was applicable to the human, and the NTR was applicable to what we know today as nature. That God.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? And so what I've done is I tell people, yes, I am a naturally intelligent, God-gifted African. You understand what I'm saying? And it's about taking ownership and reclaiming words. Why? Because words have meanings, and their meanings, they do matter. You understand what I'm saying? And so instead of nigger with the ER at the end of it, right, meaning, some ignorant, disgusting, bad sort of whatever, right? That NIGGA, all capital letters, says something completely different. Now, imagine a generation gone by where you have an entire generation of kids, black kids, boys and girls, who were told that they are naturally intelligent, God-gifted Africans, that they are the descendants of naturally intelligent, God-gifted Africans. Imagine the psychological impact on them at that point in time. You understand what I'm saying? Now, imagine this trend taking hold firmly in our community and it lasting 2, 3, 4, 5 generations. You understand what I'm saying? Imagine what happens when you start to realize, to Brother Theo's point, right, about our interwovenness with the existence of life, period, hands down. About the fact that we are the ones, right, that the powers that be entered into the covenant with, the agreement with, for life in this sphere, in this realm, in this plane that we're in, or that we're on. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing, and there's nothing wrong. Listen, like the Brother Theo, you know what I'm saying? I think I said this before with the audience and in our group, right? There was a brother, my man, he was reeking of some good ganja. You feel what I'm saying to you? He was reeking of the good stuff, right? We was at the gas station, okay? And he went to, this white dude, you know what I'm saying? And asked a white dude, you know what I'm saying, for some cash, you know what I'm saying? A little change here and there, you know what I mean? $1 here, $1 there, so you trying to build this, get some gas to go home. And I told him, I said, yo, come to me. You understand what I'm saying? And I gave him a 20 spot. You know what I mean? Just an act of love. How many of us on a daily basis go out of our way to just do something, one thing, for one person who looks like you that's kind? You understand what I'm saying? I took my granddaughter, I think it was last year or the year before, to the mall, right? To buy her some stuff. Yeah, it was, I think it was earlier this year. Yeah, earlier this year. I took my granddaughter to the mall. And there was a sister behind me, right? And this sister had 2 children, right? But she could only afford to get earrings for one. And I said, nah, you're going to get earrings for both. And I'm paying for it. You understand what I'm saying? And my granddaughter's there watching me. My black granddaughter, my black 9-year-old granddaughter is watching her baba do an act of love and appreciation like that. How many of us actually do that? Right. For a stranger who looks like us? These are the ways that we begin to take control and ownership of any sort of narrative about how unruly and unloving we can actually be towards each other. We have to act on it, and it costs nothing. I mean, come on, man, really? $5, $10 do an act of kindness for somebody that looks like you, who looks like you rather? That's not hard, man. So we gotta stop making excuses.
Jice, and I'd be interested for the mindset moment for y'all to follow up what the tone that Lethal just said. What are some things that we can do, like the ones that he just described, for our mindset moment? What are some things that we can do as prescription? Because he just gave us a prescription. That's what that was. That's a prescription. What would your prescriptions be, Jice, and then Theo, as far as what we can do to offset the propaganda around this intra-violence that we're experiencing, and how do we get out of this pattern?
Okay, so first of all, I think that H likes to take over when Shay isn't there, because you see how he just took over moderating. Like, I thought I was moderating, but then he actually said, I'm gonna close this out. Thank you. Go ahead, subscribe and share. Make sure that you're supporting us on Independent Black Media here at CTM Media. So I would say I have 2 thoughts around that. Like, one, and I don't know how true this is, but it's a story that I heard. I don't even remember the full details, but the context of the story has always stuck with me, right? And that was like, when there is a crime done in the village in Africa, right? I don't know what tribe, what place, what country in Africa, but this is just a story I heard. But it resonated with me because there's a spot where when we think about something happening, right, there's 2 sides to the trauma. There's a person who's traumatized, who's committing pain, and there's a person who they committed that trauma to, who's now also experiencing pain. And I think, the concept was like, how does the community kind of wrap them in love, right? So that they don't perpetuate that crime again. Like, how do we think about when we see somebody do something wrong, that the immediate thought isn't always punitive? And it doesn't mean that there's not a punishment or a thing that needs to be done, that needs to be corrected. But how do we embrace that person in a loving way to start to shape and help and pull them back from off that edge, right? And then also, how do we help facilitate that healing process to who they've done wrong to? Because one of the things about closing something full circle is what happens when you just leave it open, right? I've harmed you. And even if I've went out and gotten some healing and I've never done that thing again, right? What happens if I don't come and make that a full circle thing to embrace you and allow you the opportunity to also walk through that process of forgiving me and healing me? And healing yourself, right? And closing that full loop so that we can be in community and in space together. Because one of the things that continuously breaks us apart is that there's so many unclosed loops. Like, I can't stand being around you. You can't stand being around me. I had a second thought, but I'll actually just stick with this one, and I'll talk about something that happened personally. If y'all know about the Black Business Initiative, y'all may know about a sister who I fell out of community with a couple of years ago, right? And so, like, it's not that the circle has been fully healed from a couple of years ago. I'm actually not talking about Michi X.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. I was like, oh, did y'all?
I ain't talking about that sister.
I was gonna. That's cool.
We still got healing to do. But what I will say is that there is a sister who it is clear to me that she has spent some time working on herself, right? And I've spent time working on myself. And recently we were placed inside of a situation where we were in the same space, and all of our community around us knew that we were not good with each other. When I tell you that quite literally I was cornered, like in a corner, by two sisters who said, you are going to go have a conversation with her. And I'm like, you can't tell me nothing. Y'all don't run me, right? I'm the boss of me. And they were like, yeah, we hear you. But it's big. And they were very, and I'm laughing about, but they were very clear. It's bigger than you, Jice. You are a community figure, and you have to set the tone and the tempo. So you can't talk about healing in the community if you're not willing to do the healing work yourself, right?
Right.
And it's been a couple of years, and I was very not okay with it. And so sister and I came together, and the first conversation blew up in smoke, and we both walked away, fuck you, bitch, and we was off, right? And then but look, she came and got rounded back up, and I came and got rounded back up. And they were like, y'all are going to try again. And so the end result of that second conversation, we walked away having a hug. We walked away agreeing that we would continue to work on it, right? And it's not that it was all healed in one time, but it's the fact that there are two community leaders who can come together and acknowledge that the world is looking at us, and we've got to figure out how to set the tone. And that means we've got to close this gap, right? We've got to close this loop that we have. And so that would be my mindset moment. And that's my own experience of still walking through that, because it's hard. And that's not a sexual assault. That's not somebody hitting me. That's not somebody abusing me. But it is a pain. And I had to start to work to close that loop.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Brilliant. Theo. And just for the record, I take up space of whoever is not here. So when you're not here, Jice, I play you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right, well, play Shay today. Go on.
I got it. Soul Johnson. It's over to you, Theo.
That's what's up. I think what's important for us to always keep in mind is that there's no way out of the personal work, no matter what it looks like, no matter how successful. It's actually the only game in town. It's not like an important game in town. It's like the only game in town. It's the only thing that we're actually held accountable for in the end. Like if you talk to people who have like died and come back and shit, it was like, yeah, like what mattered was love and like caring and like compassion. We Black men have unlearned kindness like a motherfucker because the world wasn't kind to us. You feel me? I had to be intentional about relearning kindness. It helps with your relationship with your lady. Like it helps with your kid. Like we be like, I ain't like name it. I ain't no simp. I ain't no suck ass nigga. You ain't finna catch me lacking. Say all of it. Kindness is not in the lexicon for us. Interpersonally. Being the bigger, we have so many layers of trauma. So many times like the hardest cat you know is the most traumatized. You feel me? The dude who will buck, who will break a jaw, who will flip a table. You can count on it. The Mike Tyson of the crew. You know what I'm saying? The freaking old dog of the crew is the one with the most work to do. And so when we are intentional about kindness and weave it into our masculinity, realizing that we can actually walk away from a conflict if it's just words for real. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? Like it takes a lot. But that is easier work on the front end than beating a murder rap on the back end. You feel me? Because then things get very complex. This work on the front end is the stitch in time that saves 9. You feel me? It's the ounce of prevention that stops a pound of cure. That's what it is. So You know, I've been gifted jewels today on what to say to like young brothers, you know, when I see them in the street and stuff like that, even though I still engage with them if I can, if I got the minute to do so, you feel me? But these tools, we need to gather them up. There's no substitute for the kindness. There's no substitute for compassion. And I say it's weird and counterintuitive, but the way to get Black people together as a Black unity space, ironically, is to see ourselves as people first. It's a weird irony, but though that's where the mechanisms are to stitch together unity.
Yeah.
Not just the skin color or the ideology, but like the humanity.
Yeah. I love that. So, I mean, in order to add my little 2 cents to the mindset moment, I would just say, and this is piggybacking on Jice's point or Jice's narrative, is that one of the things that they've discovered in the new science is that there is no out there. Black people already knew that. That's why we called it Ubuntu. I am because we are.
We are, right.
But the science of that is that there's no such thing as, in the truism of it, there was no other person that Jice was beefing with. That is an extension of herself, right? There's no out there. So the conflict that she's having or that we have with other people, and I say all this to say, that you don't need the other person to be in agreement with a process of moving back into realignment, because the other person doesn't really even exist. You created
to a certain extent, yeah.
Right. You understand what I'm saying? Like that's you as this, you know, showing up in the, so people like, nah, I don't fuck with them no more. I don't fuck with, well, that's parts of yourself that you don't fuck with no more. And if to be a god is to shine on the earth equally. It's like the sun saying, yo, I don't fuck with the North no more. Last time I passed over there, that nigga had all kind of trees and bamboo up and shit. I don't even fuck with the North. If you are a god, if you're a God-moving being, then you shine your light regardless on all sections. So when you are saying I don't shine over here, what you're saying is I'm not God. I'm not the one. I am paying attention to the out there being out. I think there's an out there. And that's what I really would like people to talk about, is their mindset, to stop thinking, to understand, to Lethal's point. I love when he said that he walked up to the brothers and called them kings and called them gods, because that's a subconscious reminder, even if they can't piece together why OG is saying some weird shit like, I'm a god. He knows somewhere that his name has been called. Right. And so I love that as a mindset moment of calling people in their name and as we see them and as we want them to be.
All right, y'all. Listen, this has been 7 Generations Black. This is our last episode of 2021. We are going to catch y'all topside of 2022. Before you get out of here, make sure that you're supporting independent Black media. Don't forget, if you are in the Denver area, we have our 7th annual Vision Board party that will be happening December 4th. You definitely want to be in the room. We are going to have all the tools that you need to create your vision headed into 2022. We got our man H Soul, who will be live and in the building to talk about how to master your morning. So go ahead and make sure that you head over to bbiprofessional.com, get signed up. This is free as always for the community, because we are here to make sure that you have a vision heading into the next year, that you have the tools and the resources that you need to make that vision come to life. We're super excited. Thank you for closing out this year with us. I know it's a little bit still early in the year, but we will see y'all at the top of 2022. All right, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.